Jim, I know you were talking about the things that businesses need to do to survive and thrive, and you talked about your own example of how you're completely reinventing your doing. Is there one thing businesses do wrong in this time of extreme change?
Yeah, they get indecisive. Look, I wrote a column in my Global Mail column back in 2002, and I was watching what was happening with companies, post 9/11 .com collapse. They were being indecisive, and the phrase I coined at the time, they were becoming aggressively indecisive. They were suffering from aggressive indecision, and the mindset was kind of, well, we're not quite sure what's going to happen, so we're just going to wait to decide to do something. We're not quite sure how the future is going to unfold, so we're going to pause. And I think it's that culture of aggressive indecision that can really kill you, because it just, the phrase I use, it puts in place this organizational sclerosis that, it sort of clogs up your ability to pursue the future. In the meantime, there's big trends happening, there's big industry transformations underway, there's big ideas being pursued, and you're indecisive, you're not going to decide to move forward. That's going to get you in the long run. You got to avoid aggressive indecision.
Now, how do you do that? Because I think that's probably something, if you're a small to medium-sized organization, it's easier to be nimble. If you're a massive company, how do you overcome organizationally aggressive indecision?
Well, it's kind of funny. I was brought in by a couple of organizations, New York Life, Mercedes-Benz, Boehringer Ingelheim. Their leadership strategy was all based around a concept that we call agility. How do we become a more agile organization? And it fits into my main mantra that the future belongs to those who are fast. We can't pause anymore. We need to learn to work fast as a team. We need to speed up all of our capabilities. And I think what we're bringing into that now is a leadership concept called VUCA. It's been around for a while. It's a leadership mindset that we've got to adapt to volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That's our reality. So how do we structure around that? Well, we develop a leadership mindset and trends ability and innovation capability that aligns to those realities. And I'm witnessing that start to emerge with some organizations. And most importantly, it all goes back to the trends. Someday we're going to be out of this thing. We will be in a different economy, and there's big things, unfolding right now in so many industries that there's people around the world right now looking at those trends and saying, I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to transform an industry. I'm going to be a part of that.
How do you, and you talked a little bit earlier about some of the big trends you're seeing, but maybe you could just dig in on a few of them about what you think perhaps is going on and maybe people should be paying a little more closer attention to.
Well, the emergence of social distancing consultants. Just that article that was in the paper a couple of days ago about elevators, and the whole process of getting into an elevator has changed. There is an entire new profession of people who will re-engineer the workplace as we slowly go back to work. That's a thing. Certainly last mile delivery technology. Every single retailer has had to experiment with curbside pickup, with home delivery, with sophisticated e-commerce strategies. And there was a lot of innovation occurring with little small delivery platforms, whether it was drones, whether it was small little local delivery trucks before the crisis began. And what is now happening in Silicon Valley and elsewhere is there's entrepreneurs looking at that and saying, well, we've primed the pump with this massive rush to online shopping and e-commerce because of COVID. Now is the time to accelerate that technology. So what we were talking about, drones flying through the sky, delivering your products to your home, we might now see that coming at us as one of the big disruptive ideas to emerge from COVID-19, because people will realize the opportunity behind that trend has suddenly become so much more real.
Jim, I know it looks like you're going to give broadcasters a run for their money, and I know we're all getting kind of exhausted from all these video interactions. You found a way, of course, to make it stand out, but any advice for people who maybe don't have the ability to be a broadcaster at home?
I think it's changing up your message. I paraphrase a Pink Floyd song, a short, sharp shocks of information. Look, there was a quote I used on stage at a lot of retail conferences around the world before all this began, that a typical goldfish today, a scientific study has proven, has a longer attention span than a human. Our attention spans were already collapsing, and they've collapsed even worse as we've moved to this online world. So the idea of a 1 hour call, the idea of a 1 hour conference, the idea of a 30-minute Zoom call, that doesn't fly. You got to keep it short. You got to keep it simple. You've got to learn to become really concise in your insight in the points you're trying to get across, because we're all just but a mouse click away from doing something entirely different.
Jim, a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for bringing me in.